Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This is regular host Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me are my fellow aged Avengers.
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
Greg, also known as Still Collating.
And as we were leaving the solar system, we popped by Mars to pick up this fourth community guest. Welcome.
Yep, Eric, aka Xiggz.
So, do you want to be? Well, no, you could still be an Avenger if you're a mutant that we picked up at Mars, aren't you?
Yeah,
Based on the narrative of this comic.
Just super powered people.
Indeed. Well, yeah, we haven't got the copyright to use mutants. I'm sorry. That's somewhere else. But no, we are today talking. Oh, I didn't have it ready next to me. I'm sorry, Adam. Adam does. We are talking Aliens versus Avengers. Adam doesn't. His camera has gone muted while he goes to find it. Here we go.
I got it. Yeah, that didn't take me very long.
And you picked up the trade yesterday?
Yes.
I didn't even realize the trade was out already, to be honest.
I think it came out pretty recently, but yeah, at Barnes & Noble. So
It feels like that's a faster release for these. I think they've really gone in on the Aliens versus Avengers, because this entire line, entire run seems to have been more of a premium series. The singles, I think, were longer than typical. Is that right, Eric?
That is correct. Yeah, each issue had a slightly longer page count and a slightly higher price point.
Okay, yeah, these are $8 compared to $5 that we would normally have. Yeah, sorry, I have a bunch of fucking comics on the floor next to me.
As do I.
We're talking Aliens versus Avengers, which was written by Jonathan Hickman, who is pretty well regarded in the Marvel world. I do believe he has just been writing the Ultimate Spider-Man, which will be coming to a close in 12 issues. I also have that one on my pull list. And it was art by Esad Ribic, who I think is, again, one of Marvel's more notable artists, and coloured by... Eric, you can do this. You were practicing it earlier.
I think it's pronounced Eve Svorcina or Svorcina. I'm not exactly sure there.
And that team has done this entire series. Despite I'm sure number 4 looks slightly different. I think it's the line work on it. But
something notable is that Esad Ribic also did the cover art. So the cover art is exactly the same as the comic art, which is a nice change of pace.
For all the standard ones, I assume there was some variants for this, because Marvel always has like 2 or 3 variants, doesn't it? Yeah, Eric.
I don't recall seeing any, but I'm sure there were.
Adam can go on marvel.com while we're talking. Yeah, he's giving me nods. So in that case, Eric, why don't you give me your lowdown on your thoughts on this series?
Well, I think initially everyone was a little surprised for Avengers to be the first crossover, but when you think about it, the Avengers come together for planet or larger scale conflicts, and in this case, the Xenos were just multiverse level threat coming, and they wiped out everything. So I actually felt like it worked really well. The creative team was amazing, and this was one of the strongest runs of the Marvel era. So I'd say probably 9 out of 10.
Greg, how about yourself?
Personally, yes, I was also surprised that out of all of the potential Marvel crossovers they could have done with the Alien, I thought they were surely going to try first with the Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. But no, they went with the Avengers, and I was like confused in the sense of how are they going to do that, how are they going to balance things out. But the scale of this comic and the ambition and the trying to tie in the elements from the prequels with basically aliens take over the world and the universe in some cases in this comic, it felt unexpectedly cohesive and a lot more interesting and believable, and serious for the most part than I would expect such a premise to go. So I was pleasantly surprised, actually, and I have a pretty good opinion for it. Again, this is whenever it's such a crossover, I don't expect things to be 100% grounded in that sense. I kind of look at it the same way I would look at a Alien or Predator versus Batman, or especially Alien Predator versus Superman. I expect a few kind of extravagant, silly things to happen there. So with that in as expectation as well for the Avengers, I found it pretty satisfying. I don't know what number really would I kind of grade it, but for what it is, if you go in expecting this to be of the same kind of caliber of just mashing the action figures together, it does it pretty well. I would give it a 8 out of 10 for what it is. It doesn't set up something else unexpected. It's for what I was expecting. I got my satisfactions worth.
Adam, have you found?
Yes, there were some variant covers, some pretty fun ones. One is a play on the Alien Resurrection poster, and that was kind of cool. Another one has Venom fighting a Xenomorph. So yeah, they did a few different variant covers
So
for
as
this one.
normal, as
Yeah.
normal. Do you want to give us your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. Again, like another cosmic level Avengers threat kind of story, but this one, I mean, you might be confused by some of the covers, which shows all the Avengers fighting aliens like in their youth. But most of the Avengers in this story are like elderly because this is in the future. And there's definitely a lot of Alien prequel elements at play with David, with the engineers, which is cool to see that done because it felt like for the longest time that wasn't allowed to be used because nobody knew what Scott was going to do next, and you kind of just had to steer clear of that stuff. Now it doesn't seem to be the case, at least in this, where it's a multiverse tale. You can just kind of do whatever, and there's less risk there. But overall, I thought it was really entertaining. I thought the characters, like seeing kind of aged Avengers, was really cool because their personalities were still there, but they were indeed older. Um, it felt very kind of like apocalyptic, like most worlds, most of humanity has been wiped out, and they were trying to escape on this building, which ended up being a spaceship. So it was just a really intriguing premise. Definitely kind of leaves it open for a sequel at the end, which again, I think they could do another like time heist sort of thing, like we saw in the films, like try and save a universe from this fate, or maybe their own universe from this fate. I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was really well done, really solid artwork. Even someone like me who's not crazy about the prequels, I was on board with this. I was highly entertained by it. I would also probably agree, like between an 8 or a 9 for me, maybe like an 8.5. Like I thought it was just really solid. A lot of these crossovers have been really good, if not great. So it's nice to see the first like Avengers scale one with aliens.
So I am of pretty much of the same opinion as everybody else here. I was surprised that it was Avengers, and not Guardians. I think Greg, I think you said that. I was taken back by it, but there was a lot of choices made to make it to make the power level, I think, a bit more even as well. So what's great about this is that within the span of 3 or 4 pages, we had done what the OG Alien series had done, and we had Earth absolutely fucking messed up and infected, and the world was just infested, which was wonderful. And it's nice to see the aliens being legitimate threats. It genuinely is. This is one of the best comics that Marvel has done visual wise. Ribic is fantastic, and the colorist. I forgot her name already. I'm sorry. But
Svarcino.
Svarcino.
Svarcina, sorry.
Svarcina. Okay, them two together are fantastic. This is easily some of the best. No, not some of. It is the best that Marvel has done. Now, that said, I am not too keen on some of Ribbick's panels of the alien. It goes for a very muscular approach rather than, you know, biomechanical detailing and stuff like that. And on some of the panels, a lot of that detail is lost, which makes the aliens a little bit less of a visual treat to look at. And I think tonally, Mr. Sinister, it's the bad guy, yeah. Mr. Sinister, when he shows up, the comic does shift a little bit, especially with that stupid facehugger gun. But in general, I actually think it was a very strong comic. I absolutely love how every single issue is basically their plan failing. You know, it is nothing but the Avengers pretty much failing in their intentions as to what they're doing. We spoke about this on the interview that we recorded with the San Diego performers. You know, the line from Legends of Tomorrow, where Leonard Snart goes, make the plan, execute the plan. The plan fails, throw away the plan. That is pretty much what this entire comic felt like, and I loved it. Really, really strong comic. I am in agreement with everybody else. 8.5, 9 out of 10, something like that. Is genuinely fantastic. And I say that as somebody who has always hated the idea of introducing the multiverse into the alien side of things. But I still had a great time with this one. I really, really did enjoy it.
I mean, it's like, it's not so much the alien universe going into a multiverse side of things. It's more the Marvel universe
You say that,
incorporating
though.
aliens into its multiverse, you know.
You say that, though, but it's all initiated by David.
True. And it was
Or
nice to
Davids.
see David's foiled a bit in this one, because we're so used to watching like David succeed in his evil plans or whatever in some of the books and in the prequels. And in this one, he just gets offed by like the Wakandans or by the engineers multiple times.
We say that, though, but they destroyed their universe that they came from. They wiped out all life within their universe. They succeeded in fucking up the Earth. They succeeded in wiping out the Wakandan Empire. Because I suppose because of the engineers, they wiped out the Wakandan Empire in this. We don't know how many other multiverses they successfully fucked up, but despite Tony Stark in this universe and the Wakandans pretty much foiling them in here, I would give the Davids a win in this entire arc.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess there's probably some Davids out there still for them to track down and take care of. But
Well, there was I thought, well, I kind of wondered. I was like, so is it just these 3 Davids? Did they construct 3 Davids in this one universe, and then they go out and find a bunch more? But then at the end of whenever they do another exposition about the Davids finding the multiversal technology, there was a fuck ton of them flying into that void. So whether they duplicate themselves, well, they must have duplicated themselves, because they can't be their variants if they hadn't discovered the multiversal technology in their alien universe until that point. Fucking multiverses, man. They just, yeah. Where should we start? Should we start with the David? Should we start with the prequel elements?
It's very Marvel, the whole multiverse thing. So it's just tying that in with Alien.
Okay. Or should we stay on the multiverse? Should we stay on that aspect?
I mean, we see the engineers themselves kind of do interdimensional travel, right, with their juggernauts. I mean, that's how David does that eventually, or no? He opens a black hole, right? Because the Avengers also do it later.
He finds. Well, I don't think they open a black hole. I think they go to the same rift in the multiverse that David's at. So it recontextualizes the tablets in Prometheus to be not the LV-223 and Zeta 2 Reticuli, but to be this sort of complex asteroid kind of base thing that's orbiting this black hole that is in some way some tear in the multiverse that the Davids were using to travel around, which was interesting.
Yeah, I guess the juggernauts weren't used as the interdimensional travel devices. I think that was just like their stylized hyperdrive look or something like that. Maybe I was confused there.
I think they just flew through the rift that particular, though the Davids had torn in that particular universe, because it wasn't the engineers of the
Oh,
multiverse that
that's
we
right.
see
Okay,
David
so they
in the
did. Yeah.
first time. So it was another multiverse they went to. Those engineers went absolutely fucking not and tore up the Davids and then went flying through the rift.
It,
And
wa- it was interesting how those engineers were kind of at an overlook off to the side where the Davids were bombing the engineer city, and these ones looked very much like the Prometheus engineers in the pressure suits, as opposed to the ones that were being bombed, which were just kind of in robes. So you had kind of both of those styles of engineer there. Like, are these the military ones or something like that? So it was interesting to see. But yeah, it begs the question, like, why are there three Davids? Did Wayland make the mistake of like, well, I'll just bring three of them along in this multiverse on the Prometheus, and then they all decide to lose it together? Like,
well, maybe one's a 5, a 6, and a 7, and then an 8. Although
Could be.
the canon didn't really do anything with that, did they? That was all in the marketing material for Prometheus. How Eric, Greg, how did you guys feel about multiverse finally making an appearance in Alien?
Well, regarding multiverses in general, like I personally am somebody who, like in any fiction, I really, really dislike and do not care for multiverses at all. I think they are a messy thing, a needless thing. They are a very, very obvious, heavy-handed, just masking of a writer's tool to like reset things whenever they want, and an easy tool for them to say, okay, we're doing something alternate now. But if your continuity, your franchise, if it has a multiverse from the start, if it has for a long time a basis of it being used, then that's what that franchise does. So for me, kind of, I didn't have a huge problem here in the sense of this is Avengers. This is this is aliens kind of making a guest appearance in the Avengers Marvel continuity. That's how I kind of went in with a perspective. I don't see it as, oh, now in the Alien universe we have all of this possibility of multiverses and travel through different dimensions. I just like chose not to look at it at all like that, because it was mostly the Marvel universe in the sense of the superheroes and recontextualized with the Wayland Corporation, etc. So I completely like just understood. Okay, this is the alien part is a guest in this universe, in this other franchise universe. We are playing by its rules, and to me, that kind of makes it more palpable to enjoy it in a better sense. Even though we've had so multiverse in this crossover, they didn't go they didn't go super crazy with it in the sense of uh, I haven't read too much of the other Marvel entries where the multiverse is being used, but if I'm not mistaken, there are some stories where you have multiple versions of a superhero, and you have just a bazillion versions just come
It
together.
is a big part of a lot of Marvel's, and I suppose to be fair, DC's big story events. You know, a lot of like the bigger significant moments are all around multiversal stuff. I think like
Mhm.
the entire in the 2000s, Eric, was when the Ultimate stuff came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
yeah, the
Phil.
ultimate was like kind of a reboot.
Yeah. So keep me honest here, but at the end of the Ultimate stuff, didn't the world all collapse into like some mishmash of multiverses where it was one world made out of the Ultimate multiverse and a bunch of other random stuff like that?
Yeah, what I think what Hicks saying is right on, but I didn't read a lot of the Ultimate, so I'm a little unfamiliar with that aspect.
Yeah, but thanks for the clarification. And I should probably be more precise in the sense, yeah, this isn't actually, as said, such a Marvel thing. Yeah, this is more of a superhero thing. When you have multiple superheroes, when you have big events, big crossover things, superhero franchises, they love using the multiverse. It's a long-standing tradition, especially in the comic side of things.
I'd go
So
as far as to say it's a lot more it's a lot wider reaching than just comics as well. So much sci-fi has it built in. So like Star Trek has done big multiversal events, like the whole thing of, or alternate universe events. I mean, it's the same thing really, but like the whole premise of the reboot of Star Trek in the movies was around time travel, creating alternate dimensions and stuff like that. And there's other sci-fi out there that does it as well. So it's not just comics, I think, is my point here.
yes, I miss that a bit. Though in my defense, I never really watched Star Trek or Stargate, and that's the kind of things in my sci-fi I don't want to watch with parallel universes being used like that. Well, actually, with the multiverse especially, but. Generally, yes. So it's a wider reaching thing. Just it has been in the fiction for a long time. So for the alien appearing in such context, again, it was like, how else would we introduce the alien in the kind of superhero Avengers storyline, meeting any of the superheroes? Yes, of course, you can do just, well, this planet randomly and they have some contact there. But if you're going a big event, I think it was used fairly uh, well, which again is surprising to me knowing my aversion of it. And fairly tamed in the sense of they could have had a bunch of other more extravagant and crazy situations happening there, but they tried to keep it mostly subtle, facehugger guns not included. But the other elements, again, they tried not going too much overboard with it. And I think that using the prequel elements, even though from that one angle you have this kind of extreme end to uh the David storyline in the kind of original universe where he just wins, and in the first 100 years 10,000 planets, in the 1,000 years they got the whole universe, etc. But it kind of went through that quickly, and with the dialogue and making it sound so serious and epic, and it's something that I have noticed the more affluent writers for Marvel and DC generally, they when they set up such a serious storyline, they can make it feel hefty, feel the weight of it all. So I think that helps a lot in making us believe that it's not just some silly mashing the action figures together. So I I really think that if you're going to use a multiverse storyline in something like this, that it couldn't have been done better. There's nothing that I would like at the top of my head suggest, oh, they should have done this or they shouldn't have done that when introducing the multiverse. I think this is like the logical way to do it without going
Mhm.
too overboard. So I commend them for that.
Eric, how about you? Did it work? Did it feel right?
Yeah, I think it felt right in this aspects with the Marvel crossover. Again, like I said, it feels very Marvel to include the multiverses, but on the same token, I feel like Alien already has multiple continuities,
Yeah,
not strictly
absolutely
canon,
at this
but
point.
multiple continuities. So I kind of already feel like there's a multiverse. I just don't want them crossing over necessarily.
Adam, were you finished when we were talking about the multiverse earlier? I can't remember, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I feel like in the context of Marvel, it's fine. And yes, in the Alien universe and AvP, like we do have multiple continuities. We did have a hint of time travel at the end of one of the major comic arcs, Fire and Stone, or I guess
When or where we
it
are,
was Life and Death, right?
or
At the end.
where or when we are was how it
Yeah.
ended. Yeah.
And that was Life and Death. So the Fire and Stone Life and Death arc. So it's reared its head up a little bit. I mean, we almost got an ending in The Predator where Ripley or Newt would have shown up. I mean, that has to be some sort of time travel thing. Like, so
Thank God that never happened, because that would have been absolute fucking chaos.
So we've almost got there a few times in the Alien universe, but no, the multiverse thing. I think it's gotten a little tired even in Marvel in the cinematic side of things, but I don't know. Like I'm less familiar with the Marvel comics than I am with the films. So when I jump into the comics, it can almost feel maybe a bit more fresh for me, exploring this concept in that context. And I think it worked for me here. It was interesting because as bleak as things are, it still kind of allows for a bit of hope at the end, where it's like, well, everything's completely messed up here, but at least we can maybe go to a different universe or go back in time and try again and fix things. Maybe things won't get so out of control this next time.
So unlike Greg, I actually really like multiverses. I like alternate universes, alternate parallel stories. Generally in my other sci-fi, I love it in an Alien series. I love it in a Star Trek series. I love it in Stargate. Um, I actually enjoy them in Marvel. I just never ever wanted it in Alien because it never felt like it fit in Alien. But as Eric said, as Greg said, if they're gonna do it, it feels more at home within a Marvel context, but also B, if they're gonna do it, the space jockeys being the way it's done is, I think, a very reasonable avenue into doing it. You know, we ended up avoiding a lot of the more chaotic, weird sci-fi elements of the engineers with Prometheus. You know, in the past, in the John Spates script, we had him shooting invisible missiles at each other that existed in different light spectrums, and you couldn't see it, and all that kind of thing. Where the engineers saw in a different light spectrum, and I think I think one of the points in those scripts was taking the irises or the eyes of the engineers and making goggles out of them where they could see this other light and other controllers and stuff. Um, so that is, we've avoided that in a cinematic sense. But if it was going to be done, it being done via the prequel, I think is the best way that it was ever going to be done. So in that regard, it works. I think I just don't want to see multiversal hopping show up in the main line series. I don't want to see these guys show up with Theta or these guys show up with I don't think anybody's really survived in the Alien series, have they? The old lady from I can't even remember what it's called. What's the second arc called, Adam? You loved it.
You're
Is it
throwing names
Revival?
on me here.
Revival,
Revival.
yes. I don't want to see the Avengers show up with the old lady in Revival or show up with the Steel team from Icarus or anything like that. Even though I suppose that a crossover between Steel team and the Avengers might be a bit more closer in theme and tone than any of the others. But in the context of this series, I think it worked very well, and it actually allowed for a much more significant scope and threat of both the Davids, the engineers. I say both. So, what's it when there's three? It allowed for the threat of the Davids, the engineers, and the aliens overall. So it really genuinely upped the ante. And like you were all saying earlier, you know, it allowed for a galactic scale cataclysm, a multiversal scale cataclysm. I'm not gonna lie, I got an absolute fucking thrill out of that stuff with David, where it takes him 1,000 years or whatever, but he wipes out all life in his own galaxy. I found that genuinely thrilling. I love David. I think even when he's more overtly villainous in Covenant, I think he's entertaining as fuck, and I love him. And I to see him, I think all of us will probably get a little pleasure from seeing some villains that we like succeed, and that was very much the case for me here.
I mean, it was interesting seeing, like you said, we see multiple Davids, like many Davids, going through this portal later. But when they killed the last life form of their universe, there was a city behind them. So this implies just a city or society of Davids, and it makes you wonder, like, oh,
Well, I
did,
think it was supposed to be the city of the people they killed, but
oh, okay,
I don't think it's so much they go around bombing as it is they go around killing everybody with an alien. So that's even more thrilling to me in the sense that there's this entire multiverse where there is nothing but dead cities,
Yeah,
just
and
lifeless empty
it's
cities.
also interesting how they infected a world, because even though we have the black goo bombing scene from Alien Covenant shown in this comic, they also have a xenomorph specific method of seeding a planet, which was interesting, where they have these pods shoot out with four queens or four queen eggs and four hosts that are like on the verge of being chest bursted surrounding those eggs that will land on like the outskirts of cities. Like there were a whole few panels on just this process of like planetary seeding of xenomorphs, and I thought that was pretty cool. It kind of reminded me again of that read play watch concept art that came out with that whole series of like the
Yeah.
world being infected.
Well, it goes even further as well. It's AvP in feel. The OG series, and it feels like Earth Hive. No, that's the novel. Whatever the first comic's called, I can't remember. They go through so many titles. The first series, it feels like that in a way.
Outbreak.
Outbreak is the comic.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So it feels so alien in a lot of ways, in a lot of those little details.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's something I really appreciated from how this was set up. So even though we have this mega crossover, as you said, there's so many of those familiar elements for especially older readers of the older comics of that outbreak of the first AvP comic. There are just so many of those familiar elements, which is something you wouldn't really expect for Aliens versus Avengers to have such a transition for maybe fans of the older material. So that is something I really, really appreciated from the authors there. The visuals of the egg are very reminiscent to the AvP first comic eggs. That is true. And again, how in that limited space of the first few the pages, how the overtaking of Earth was described is very similar to how Outbreak does it, and even with some of the details how the novelization does it. Even though I'm always kind of longing to see actually a comic or a novel that has that whole process not just skimmed over but actually described in detail. A series for that. But again, if you do it, then at least make it meaningful, which here as well you feel the impact, you feel that each situation, each meeting with the different biomes and different heroes and their kingdoms, etc., how they deal with it all feels like one by one the towers fell until nothing was left to stop the flood. So I was really surprised how well it was set up there. And for David's character, I was kind of yes, I also really enjoy his character, even though I don't like generally what the prequels did or implied. But David's character was very fun. I loved how the actor portrayed it. I prefer his character always more in Prometheus than in Covenant, but at the same time, he had some great moments in Covenant. I liked that he won at the end, basically. So to see that kind of storyline progress through to an extreme end was quite unexpected. That will be the main focal point of Aliens versus Avengers, David winning and trying a
I
multiversal war. Like, who
I
would have thought
never,
that?
I never in a million years, when they were bringing this out, thought that that was the route that this series would take. I never. It wasn't on my bingo card.
So surprising. It was it was a refreshing surprise. That's some of the originality that I kind of expect with these kind of crossovers. I mean, I'll never take them seriously as, oh, this is canon to either of universes, whatever. But I always look at it as like crazy what ifs. So if you're gonna do that, then yeah, try for something original. It doesn't have to always be successful, but I always appreciate trying something new, especially in a context that kind of is shielded with its premise of being a little bit more out there to not be taken so seriously. So having David uh, be able to get his goal, and then you see 100 years all of the 10,000 planets of some region, and then progresses to 1,000 years. And uh, I was kind of between two minds in the sense of his motivation. It was like, oh, I've done everything I've ever wanted. We've killed all life. I am bored now. Oh, we found this new technology that we're just starting to understand where we can get to multiverses, and there's more life to destroy. Mwahaha, mustache twirling.
I
But at the same
I
time,
don't
since it's David, I'm kind of okay with it. So
I
it was a strange
1,000 years
feeling.
later.
Yes.
well hang on. Let's have a quick look because it goes from
It was
it goes
100 years to wipe out his own timeline, all the life in his own timeline, and then a
oh
1,000 years they found the opening to the
but-
multiverse.
so it's
Yeah.
100 years and 10,000 planets later, and then it's the 1,000
He's been
years.
working. He's
To
been
be
working
fair,
hard.
that's kind of cool though, in that it goes towards that whole vengeance never quite being satiated kind of thing.
Plus.
And in the case of a multiversal fissure, it will never, ever, ever be satiated because it's infinite. So
Yep.
is David actually really the loser there? Especially because even though he does succeed in getting so many, it's like Adam said earlier, ultimately one gets killed by the Wakandans. I was going to say Wayland. That was actually a little detail that annoyed me. Tony gets one. So there's still actually one running around in our multiverse. Because one escapes from the Wakandans. But yeah, sorry, just to tangent there a little bit. So in the first issue, when it's doing all the setup for everything, when we're going to the last bastion, the last living city, there is a panel. So this page, a stronghold in the ruins of America. No one knows how, but they were ready for what was coming. Like a prophet of doom, the old man of Wayland knew. So for that entire first issue, I thought the old bloke in the wheelchair
It was Wayland. I did
was
too.
Wayland
Yeah.
until we
Same.
get to the second issue where it's fucking Tony Stark.
Well, it's interesting because Tony Stark kind of reverse tricks a Wayland merger. Like somehow one of the Davids is taking control of the Wayland Corporation, and he's trying to get Tony Stark to sell Stark Industries to Wayland. But Stark kind of turns it around on him, playing possum, as he says, and takes out that David. And so
Well, it's not so
with
much
that,
about that either, though, is it? It was about them infiltrating Wayland's systems. It was about them getting information off of David as well.
yeah. So Tony Stark can prepare a little bit better because he knows exactly kind of the time scale for the Davids to take out that particular universe.
That
Or
was quite a
Earth.
nice
Yeah,
twist.
he found out like 16 years earlier before the probes hit the four major cities.
And to be fair, that's also an interesting thing that the comic plays with, is the idea of the time dilation, because that base is so close to the black hole. So I guess 20 years passes between the Wakandans actually fucking that base up at the start to them actually showing up on Earth. I suppose maybe a little bit longer because of some of the, space travel shenanigans or whatever. But yeah, so the idea is that they're trapped there for so long while everything's getting absolutely fucked up in the galaxy. And I thought that was a nice little twist. Again, a little bit more generically sci-fi than Alien sci-fi, but that's not something that I think feels out of place in Alien, especially
thing-
given all the given all the time displacement through cryo and stuff like that. It feels very much at home.
One thing I extremely do appreciate that this author did in this crossover was
Jonathan
exactly
Hickman. Let's respect him, Greg.
Yeah, I'm terrible with names. So
I
sorry
know.
for that.
I enjoy this that much, and I enjoy his Ultimate so much that I just want to say, Jonathan Hickman.
Jonathan Hickman did a great job. I definitely want to see more stuff from him with aliens in the future, as a side note. But one thing I adore that Hickman has done here is exactly as you said, the use of time. Yes, we have 4 issues, though. Also, I'm happy that Marvel gave it more of a page count, so it can so everything was let to breathe. But the implication of time passing, for me, that is such an important element for storytelling. With Alien, the general vibe of the Alien universe, with the creature itself, with the space travel, time needs to pass. Things need to feel slow, hard, and heavy. And so to have here, with every element from David's kind of taking over his universe, etc., there was no need to set such a great timeline there, but Hickman did. So you feel how much it all how much it took to get to that point. And then for Tony Stark, which we presumed all was Wayland, so he had almost 2 decades to prepare, and then you can of course have more of a believable feel to as why they would be able to protect this city. Then how long it takes to get a planet fully infected, it's neither too long nor too short. I love how it was explained. Within a few hours you get this, within one day this, within a week, within a month, year. It helps you build a picture of how the logic of this universe works, and how time helps the grand scale of all of this. And then using the black hole time dilation thing was also something that's a great plot point. You've come here, you're basically trapped. Even if you try to leave right away, right this fucking moment, because of the physics of that phenomena, you're gonna just come in late. You're gonna not be able to save everyone you can. So it's a great use of actual time to progress the story, set up traps, and just make everything feel heftier and more important. Because when everything is just like this, flip a switch, then that doesn't mean a lot of things.
It gives
So
it dramatic weight.
Yes, dramatic weight, and especially with Richard and Susan's daughter, when she was trying to get that virus thing, but she her time ran out because she was infected. So she had time to come back to try and get a plan there, but it was not enough. But if we were going with modern film logic with the gestation, just in 5 minutes, we wouldn't have that
Yeah, she
great
wouldn't have.
kind
She
of
wouldn't have
dramatic
got out of the
moment.
hive at all. would
Exactly.
she?
Exactly. So that's why we need time passing for all of these elements. Well, I think it's
Mhm.
very nice to have that in such a comic. So I'm very thankful to
Absolutely.
Hickman for that.
Absolutely. Any thoughts on that one, Eric or Adam?
I did like
For me,
how, well, not necessarily going into time, but Valeria trying to have enough time to find a virus that she wanted to infect eggs and kill them at the first stage of the life cycle. So that was kind of fun. But again, another foiled plot, right? Or foiled plan right there.
Constantly failure.
there was an element I wanted to bring up that I really enjoyed about this, and that was kind of the superhero xenomorph hybrid crossovers that we got. I mean, Mr. Xenomorph. Well, Mr. Sinister kind of becomes Mr. Xenomorph, where he allows himself to be like reborn as this red xenomorph, and they refer to him as a queen, which is interesting.
Yes. So that was something that I found annoying, actually.
Oh yeah.
She's so obviously not being depicted as a queen.
Hmm.
So them actually calling her a queen, I was just like,
But we also have a symbiote xenomorph, a straight up like Venom-esque xenomorph, which is really cool. They did this back in the day with the Dark Horse DC crossovers, right? We had the Joker
it
alien, we
was
had Killer Croc alien.
specifically the third Batman crossover.
I thought it was the second.
I think it's the second. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it's
well,
a second.
well, I'm sorry, guys. It was one of them. It wasn't the
But
first one.
but it was a fun concept
It was
to
the
see
second.
here
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
Marvel context. So that was a nice comeback. So what happened was Tony Stark's character gets impaled by a tail, and all this time, like Miles Morales Spider-Man almost got face hugged, but we find out he has a symbiote companion that like contains the face hugger, and it just becomes like the symbol on his chest. And as like Tony Stark's dying, they use that symbiote face hugger to birth a symbiote alien so they can just use it for battle. Am I getting that right? I was a bit confused by that part.
My first reading, I was a little confused because I took it to be the tail through Tony had killed him.
And I thought the symbiote saved him. Like I thought that was still him at the end, like he somehow survived,
No.
but then you find out he didn't.
Yeah, so subsequent rereads, I pretty much agreed with you. You know, the idea was that the symbiote controlled facehugger infected Tony, and then that's what birthed it. Eric's nodding there.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so I went and looked up Mr. Sinister as a villain to find, because I'd never heard of him prior to this comic, and I didn't like when he shows up in number 3 with the facehugger gun. I was like, oh, this is so tonally not right for this comic, because yes, it's a Marvel crossover multiversal thing, but it took itself very seriously. And I think it's one of the reasons I actually quite liked it. You know, it was a very serious, unfair, alien feeling crossover. But when this motherfucker shows up, and there's some dialogue about, yes, it's a facehugger gun, you know, I was like, ugh, this don't feel right. But him as a character, looking him up, you know, he's this person who was obsessed with genetics, and he mutated himself using mutant genes, and his obsession with then through the DNA reflex continuing his existence and presence through this DNA reflex, I thought was really good. You know, I was like, actually, he is a really good choice for a villain in this series. I just wish he hadn't shown up with a stupid facehugger gun.
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was a little moment of just bizarre humor in the midst of such a bleak comic, right? When he just shows up in that ship, he's like, "Guess what I have? It's a face hugger gun." And I'm like, "Oh, that's just great." Like it was one of those moments where I was like, "Yeah, I kind of needed that with how bleak the comic was." I don't know.
Go on, Eric. What did you feel?
Yeah, it was good. I think it was good comedic relief at that point. I definitely laughed. I cackled when it when he had a facehugger gun. But I think as a character, there's a lot of good parallels with him and David. They're both kind of megalomaniac mad scientists that are obsessed with making themselves or something else perfect, like the perfect organism.
Yeah, fair point.
And in this comic,
When
they had both like duplicated themselves as well. Like there was a lot of Mister
Well,
Sinisters.
that's part of his backstory, though, isn't it, Eric? Like, Mr. Sinister is one of 3 clones of another person, but he also believes himself to be the original person.
Yes, yeah, he's just constant genetic manipulation.
So that's perfectly on point there, then.
when I saw the infamous facehugger gun, yes, I also had that reaction that that is ridiculous. I agree with Aaron in the sense of like the previous issues have set up a really kind of serious atmosphere, almost gritty, like some of other specific Marvel entries. Even it's not just like borrowing from the Alien atmosphere. Marvel has a few like really gritty, dark, serious, down to earth stories. So I thought, oh, they're going in that direction as much as they can. Nice. But then you have this moment, which again, I'm not a huge fan of that, but if I look at it just on its like momentary value, it did get a chuckle out of me. I have to admit that. And since I am looking at this as Alien just being a temporary guest in a what if Marvel universe thing, I have less of a problem with it. I kind of let it slide a lot easier than if this was something in the Alien universe, like some other shows have done recently. But when this is just, oh, this is a what if Alien is a secondary, basically, character situation that is put into this universe, which Marvel, of course, has a plethora of different genres and comedy moments, with a character that's maniacal and uh, egotistical and complete character of uniqueness all around. I understand and let it pass a lot more than if it was the other way around, if it was Avengers in an alien universe or something. So I can swallow it a bit better.
It was absurdly funny though. Taken out of context, um, it does get a chuckle out of me. And it's not like it ruined the experience for me. It was very brief. And I think the rest of the time we spend with Mr. Sinister, while he does talk in the third person, um, he doesn't ruin the tone of the rest of the comic. Even when we get to the climax of this Mr. Sinister alien and Venom alien duking it out, the comic quickly shifts and I think goes back to that more serious tone. So it's one of the negatives of the series for me. Absolutely, it genuinely is one of the negatives of the series, but it very quickly course corrects and doesn't ruin it at all for me. It was interesting, for the most part. We don't see a lot of the DNA reflex in play in the series, and it leaves it until the big climactic battle on Mars to really show it off. Because I think even prior to that, we still get battles with the alien. We still get to see the Hulk crushing an alien in his hands and the acid raining down on him. We get to see Captain America with his is it vibranium? Keep me true here, guys. Yep, I'm getting nods with his vibranium shield. Taking aliens' heads off and stuff like that. But it's not until that final climactic battle where it gets to feel, I think, a bit more comic-y. And I don't say that in a bad word, in a bad way. I don't mean that as any sort of insult, because I think it adds again more weight to that final battle. So you get to see the heroes. On Mars, everybody is dead. The mutants fled to Mars when Earth was infected. And Tony and the few survivors that he has around him show up on Mars expecting to find a bustling civilization of mutants on the planet. And he shows up and they find nothing but Mr. Sinister and his clones and 4 mutants that literally cannot die, teleport around, or exist within a shield. And we actually got to see all that in place as these characters went at it with the aliens and were doing a fairly decent job, let's be honest, fighting them until this Red Queen shows up. But because Mr. Sinister is this amalgamation of so many different mutants and so many different mutations, the Red Queen can do tricks of her own. So I thought it was really cool when the Queen used, I'm assuming, Nightcrawler or one of his family's power to transport inside. What's the name of the character who exists in the Shield?
Armor.
To bamf into that's the onomatopoeia, isn't it? On the sound effect. Sorry for
Yeah.
to bamf inside Armor's shield and just fucking inner mouth him, inner tongue her through the back of the skull. I was like, yeah, that is good. And the fact that it wasn't done in a page was also thrilling. There was a good third maybe of that comic devoted to this escalating battle at the end of it, and it felt so dramatically amped up and ramped up and satisfying at the end of it all.
I hope if you're looking to read this that you're not too big of a Captain America fan, because he just gets shafted a little bit, where he just shows up, fights aliens for maybe like one panel, and then does the rocket just take them all out when it
I think
takes
it
off?
just leaves them. But
Oh, okay.
isn't that so Captain America though? Don't you think? And I guess this is probably more for Eric than it is for the rest of us with our limited knowledge. But don't you think that this comic and Hickman really do a good job at making these guys true to their characters?
Yeah,
And
yeah, they do.
Carol is the one that sort of well, and Bruce, I guess. So it becomes this question of who are they? What have they lost by
And
surviving?
survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the interpretations of the Avengers themselves here, Eric?
Well, yeah, like we just said, like most of the planet has died at this point. So at this point, the fact that they survive, they all have survivor's guilt, and some of them just like I think the whole Captain America, they really can't live with it anymore. They're like, we're gonna save as many as we can, and then Tony's like being pragmatic and just is like, nope, the only answer is to run. So yeah, I think it was a good portrayal.
Yeah, you see that the philosophical clash a little bit between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers with, utilitarianism
Well,
versus
it's probably more Banner than Rogers though.
well, true, but I mean, and that's the argument Tony's trying to make. He's like, we need your mind for this journey. And he's like, well, I just can't leave my friends. So yes, that argument, even though that is very much like Captain America's philosophy in terms of that, like Banner was like, no, I just can't, even if it means like I'm gonna die here.
But I think it's more than that as well, though, still, because with Banner in particular, he always has this internal conflict of the Hulk, a literal "am I a monster, man or a monster" kind of aspect to his character. So I think that plays very well into his decision to stay to help Steve, because even though it's pragmatic, even though it's the sensible choice, he as a character decides that I would be too much of a monster. I would be too much of, not maybe literally an alien, but an alien in the sense of being a monster if I left with you. So it was very on point for Banner, and I really liked that.
And it plays into Captain Marvel's character later, where she kind of regrets not staying with them to fight. And then there comes a point where she's significantly injured, and the mutants there are saying, like, no, you need to just stay and recover. And she's like, no, I did that once. Now I'm just getting back into the fight.
I really enjoyed the characterizations. Again, I have a limited knowledge of the deep, deep, deep history of all of these superhero characters that they have been building for decades and their various interpretations. But from this version alone, they all felt compelling. They felt like real, not just their super ego counterparts, but they felt human. They felt true to their personalities that are portrayed in other more popular media as well. And one thing I always really do appreciate from the better superhero comics is that they can sometimes get the dialogue very, very. It can be written very well. It can be written in a very kind of that philosophical and dramatic manner that I really like to see. So Hickman has done a great job there as well, and that is something that I have been really kind of missing from a lot of the alien side of the comic books for quite a while, and even some of the novels, etc. Some of the very early Dark Horse ones had dialogue in almost in such a manner, but I really do appreciate the history that DC and Marvel, some of the better comics, when they have characters clashing with the philosophies and having strong stances with the philosophies and exploring the vast pros and cons of their opinions. There's a lot of good drama, human drama between that is not usually explored in our alien fandom side of things. It's a lot more superficial and kind of glanced over. So I'm glad that we get some of the best elements of superhero stories with such dialogue, even when we are versus an alien story here, when we have that side in a comic. So I hope that's something that can bleed over to singular alien stories as well. But I think these characters were quite well characterized, and I think it's very wise which superheroes were used and were not, because not all of the superheroes can face an alien safely or for long. So for kind of sidelining Captain America. Again, it makes sense that he would stay and he would sacrifice himself completely in character, from my personal opinion there. But also, how would he be able to continue fighting and fighting, especially since these are older, more grizzled characters for that future setting? Which again, it's kind of trying to ground things and limit some of the more extravagant powers there. So I think it was very well balanced, and the fights that you do have are the more powerful ones, the ones that have regenerative capability, so the acid doesn't delete them immediately. I think it was a very well thought through then how to balance these uh, elements. It's using the superheroes and their everything from their abilities, but also to the characterization to complement nicely the alien side of story. We have questions for Sinister. How was he able to go amongst the aliens for so long? How was he able to quote unquote control, etc.? Well, we find out he had an alien inside of him, and through his genetic manipulation, slowing it down. I love that. That makes
I
sense.
absolutely love that, because that is a
Yes.
concept. I think Dark Descent is a bit too. Okay, don't get me wrong. I don't know if we've really talked enough about Dark Descent on the actual podcast, but I fucking love Dark Descent. I think it is to aliens what isolation is to Alien. Have we done a review on Dark Descent on the podcast?
If we haven't, we need to. I'm pretty sure we have,
You
but
guys
I'll have
have.
to go
You
back and
definitely
look.
have.
Okay.
Okay.
So I fucking love it. I think it's a brilliant game. But from a visual point of view, the way they present their version of that with a literal window into the chest with the chest burster inside it is a little bit on the silly side. But
Agreed.
the concept is bang on, and it is something I've actually always liked and been in my fan fiction in my head for things that I never fucking finish or put down on paper. So I find it thrilling when I get to see it put on the page or on the screen.
It was also in a novel, in Enemy of My Enemy, which I know a lot of people are kind of
Ugh.
lukewarm, but I know,
I,
but
I'd
that
forgot
aspect,
that. I'd
but
forgot
that
about
a
that.
I agree if somebody says it's maybe more forgettable or not, whatever. But that concept alone, what they were kind of researching there, the scientists, etc. I love that. That's what they were kind of working on, prolonging the incubation as much as possible, and then seeing, oh, how well did they do that? Can they really predict when it'll pop, etc. But that is one of the better ways in trying to, quote unquote, control or limit the aliens' prowess there. So I love that when you play with those kind of concepts. And again, even though we have all of these superheroes with crazy, extravagant powers that are trying to be treated in a not too OP way, but at the same time, Hickman generally has a well earned respect for our beloved Xenomorph. How does Sinister control it? Because he has an alien inside of him, he has the genetic manipulations, etc. power, so it can make sense that he will find a way to prolong the incubation. When you have that alien burst out because it inherits his kind of powers, it makes sense to use that in an interesting, creative way. Cool, awesome. But at the same time, at the first issues, when we were thinking, oh wait, so when the facehugger is on you, I know that not everybody here agrees with it, but when the facehugger is on you, there's no way of getting rid of it. When it's on you, you're good as dead. I've always been a fan of that, so thank you, Hickman, for that as well. But then they think of creatively, okay, what should we do? Well, let's target the eggs. Let's make a virus to wipe that out. And yeah, we have super geniuses, so that is actually a probable thing that could maybe one day they could do. But there are, creative ways that don't break immersion and logical consistency too much. That's something that, again, good writers in the superhero genre with both Marvel and DC, when they get it right, when they get these kind of interesting ideas and concepts out right, they really do get it right. So for Alien, all of this made sense in the way they tried to defeat them.
And that in itself, the idea of a virus targeting the alien has plenty of basis in the expanded universe as well. Obviously, famously, Labyrinth and the Mold, with Phalanx and the flower. I can't remember what the flower was called.
Caminus leaves.
Caminus leaves. Yep, that's it.
That's right.
And then there's Aliens Kidnapped as well. That was a little 3-issue series that Mark Schultz wrote, I think, where it was about an infected chestburster that was running around a resort or something. I can't remember. It's been a little while since I've read that one, but I remember it being relatively an entertaining read. But that has basis in the alien lore itself. Everything about what they try and do in this series makes me think Hickman is well versed in aliens.
Extremely, extremely. And even though all of these possibilities are presented, it's never like easily done right away. That's one thing that I always kind of believed in alien stories, that when there's a MacGuffin, kind of a virus, a special substance, or something new that can affect the alien, that sometimes some of the stories they make it a little bit too easy to use, and they get to it too quickly, or it's too powerful. But here, Hickman seems to understand that even though there might be multiple ways of dealing with them, never let your heroes get to that MacGuffin quickly. They have to work for it. It has to be hard. It has to fail again and again. These are the Avengers, the Earth's mightiest heroes, and they are constantly on the back burner. As
And
said at the beginning,
failing. They're constantly
exactly.
failing.
Exactly. Constantly, plan after plan, they try and they fail. And I just love that concept. It makes it feel believable. Human mistakes happen. You think one thing will work, and it doesn't. It's just not enough. Your presumptions are uh, too wide, and just a few details, if they are changed. And when you have such a huge threat as with aliens that multiply fast, there are a lot of them. There are too many variables. Things can get screwed up so goddamn fast. So I am very happy that even though we had these kind of ideas right at the beginning, oh, is it that already in issue one we have a way how they're going to defeat the aliens? No, it's the rug is pulled underneath us, and it doesn't go into that direction. It's a very constrained. It's very the 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 writer understands that we need to work for this to get a satisfying answer, and
Mhm.
it almost kind of uses it as a red herring when other solutions are presented to us. So that is something that I really do appreciate. And if it was done in a longer 6-issue story or something, I could only imagine how more even developed that would have been.
He even goes so far as to say that magic doesn't work on the
Yes,
Xenos.
they
So
do. Which
That's brave.
I thought that was a really nice little detail where they were again making the aliens a threat. If magic didn't work, if Doctor Strange couldn't fucking wring his way out a chest burster out of somebody's out somebody's chest, that was great. It made them a legitimate threat in this world.
Yeah, and it talks about that a little bit, how even though the Wakandan Empire had kind of secretly gone off into the stars and started colonization, it said like their downfall was just how easily interconnected they made their colonies, because if an infection happened, it could just spread across their whole network almost immediately. And you know me, Aaron, I do like my Alien Universe spaceships. And I guess with the Marvel Universe spaceships here, like I thought the Wakandan starships were just really cool. I mean, it was nice seeing like Stark's skyscraper turn into a spacecraft as well, but I specifically thought like the designs of the Wakandan ships were pretty neat.
And they had Stargates.
Yeah, Wakanda's
That's
had
right.
Stargates, but I felt like the skyscraper ship had a very Sulaco or Canestica class style ship vibe going.
Yeah,
It all
absolutely. Even from that very simplistic slab slab of metal approach to it.
it kind of reminded me of that arcade Aliens Armageddon, where
Yes,
you have that
because it's
level.
just it's the last level, isn't it, of Armageddon is a big
Yes.
ship, a big tower spaceship thing. Fucking hate that game. I think it's ridiculous.
I like that game because
I
it
I
feels
really
like
like
a comic book, and this also reminded me of that because yeah, it was like humanity's last stand trying to escape the Earth, just like that arcade,
It's
and that arcade felt very comic booky. So I also had that thought in my mind
it
of
didn't
Armageddon.
feel it didn't feel alien though, which was why I never liked Armageddon. Extermination felt very alien. Armageddon just felt like something they'd slap some aliens on and slap the the banner on the top of the machine on it. It never felt alien to me.
I guess it's
it
Alien
felt
Covenant now, though.
it felt Kenner to me, and a bit of the kind of Matrix 3 reskinned, that kind of last ditch of people trying to escape. But yeah, the ships were also awesome. The designs are generally quite nice. I mean, I was surprised with how well the art is. The aliens are serviceable. Again, not too much of a fan of how with
Muscular.
not enough, yeah, muscular, etc. But the poses are nice. But the main heroes, damn, those were some expressive faces. The action, the texture on Hulk and his skin, beautiful, lovely, lovely. I mean, and then just the lighting, how it's done, I adore it.
R-
The
Ribic and
mist,
what's her
yeah.
face was just such a good team. Um, Eric, had you been familiar with Ribic's work from other runs?
I think I've read one of that's a Punisher run of his because I remember a more realistic, detailed style, but I hadn't had a lot of experience with him. But I was pleasantly surprised, and I agree. The collaboration between him and the colorist just created such moody artwork that really fit the vibe.
It actually quite reminded me, Greg, Adam, weighing on this as well as you, Eric, of course. It actually quite reminded me of the pairing of Doug Wheatley and Rain Burrito in Thicker
Omega?
Than Blood.
Or no, you're right. Okay. Well, was that the same? No, that wasn't the same as Omega for Fire and Stone. I still think that's like some of the best art we've ever gotten in like Alien Predator comic. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was really strong here. The art, and I know you were saying like the xenomorphs maybe weren't biomechanical enough, Aaron, but I still thought like one of the main things I'm looking for with an artist doing aliens in comics is how well they can portray the movement. And all too often it looks like aliens are just statically like
Posed figures.
posed. Yeah. And
Yeah.
literally that is what they sometimes are in terms of reference. But here
Especially
it
in the mainline Alien series. That's been our big complaint with a lot of the
yeah.
mainline Alien stuff.
But here the xenomorphs had character and their motion was really portrayed well. I thought the art here was among the best we've seen for aliens under Marvel for sure.
Just to clarify, it's not so much that the aliens weren't biomechanical enough. It's just that in being portrayed as quite muscular, I think it loses a lot of detail within the aliens' design. So sometimes some of the panels are a little bit boring in some regards because there's nothing going on. It's just color, no particular detail enough. That is half the appeal of some of the alien design sometimes, is the intricacy of the details. That's why I can sit and look at Tristan Jones's depictions of the aliens, because that motherfucker will go in there and put a load of that detailing in, and it makes them more interesting to look at. But I completely agree with you, Adam. Not once in here did I think, oh, that's a NECA figure, or oh, that's a screenshot from this game or that game or whatever. you are bang on. Everything looked very dynamic. It looked like it was all original artwork, and,
Yeah.
and it depicted the aliens and their grace quite well.
And that's what I want to see from an artist in a comic. I don't want to see you highly reference a piece of artwork I could pick out on an alien Google search. Like, I want to see your take on an alien, and the artist here did that very well.
Absolutely, Adam. Absolutely. I'd take original, like completely drawn. I'd take this alien over any. It can be super intricately detailed. Reference the best sideshow statues or the biggest quarter scale NECA figures. I'd take this over uh, a copy over just a figure or statue any day, any day. So yes, I completely agree. Having it just that that this is an original thing that's drawn, that is not referenced, that will not take you out of the comic, that will not break your suspension of disbelief and immersion. I truly, truly appreciate that, and having that kind of dynamic posing, feeling the fluidity of the movement. It's done very well. It's not a stiff referenced action figure that's been quite often. It was also a few times in Dark Horse's
Well,
material
it
as
was
well.
the later years as well, which was the real crime.
Yes.
It's a modern thing, Adam. I still remember you pointing out the Clone and Marine screenshot in Aliens: Fire and Stone. You know,
Oh yes. Oh yes,
so
that's the first time I noticed it as well. But yeah, even with Black, White, and Blood, which is an amazing Marvel comic, we have those a few sideshow pieces that are one by one just portrayed there. So that is always a shame to see. This is
to
nice. We have original creatures and original angles and movements, something new to see.
let's
It may not be the favorite, but it's beautiful to see.
let's also acknowledge that these weren't monthly releases. They were like 2 or 3
Mhm.
months between releases.
And
So
that's
they
Quarterly,
gave
yeah,
Ribic
quarterly.
they
and th-
gave Ribic time to do good artwork.
yeah. And I would much rather have that than hitting a monthly schedule. I would much rather have it being done right. I honestly think this could have used another issue. Like, it almost, like, I did really like it, but it did feel maybe just a little bit rushed at the end. But
So I don't agree there. I think it came to a very nice, tight conclusion. Again, in part because of a lot of it was the plans continually failing. So it's not like I felt like it was actually ramping up to anything. It then just went absolutely shit's hit the fan. It's big battle time. I don't think you and Eric gave us your thoughts on how well you thought the battle was depicted.
no, the final battle I thought was really cool, especially where you had like two superhero crossover xenomorphs at each other. That was really fun on Mars. Like, it was just a really cool visual, I guess.
It's a brave
Yeah,
thing to do.
yeah. On one thing I did notice is that the red xenomorph, the sinister xenomorph, it armored up right when Captain Marvel had finally reached her survival's guilt limit and decided to go supernova to wipe out the horde. So it gets that red armor, and then earlier in issue 3, you see Colossus from X-Men hived up. So I think that was a nod to him.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that. Yeah, that's cool. Cool
Yeah,
part.
those textures of the Colossus armor on an alien surprisingly looked pretty well. Those details for a fight. I mean, we understand choreographing a fight, especially uh, on the page where you don't have motion. It's a tricky thing, but then to dedicate that much page space to the final battle, that means you are confident. You are confident in the way that you're going to be able to portray this, and I'm so thankful that they had the courage and the resources to do that. That is a good point that was made, that these weren't issues that were month to month. Give your artists the resources, pay them well enough, but give them the time to draw what they need to draw. I personally never understand when something needs to be rushed. I like getting material as soon as possible, yes, but not at the expense of quality. We we have other things
It,
to do. We won't. lose our interest in
At
a
this
few months of waiting.
at this point in time, we have an absolute fucking abundance of materials. Like, it is almost to the point where I think it's slightly overwhelming, as a fan. So I would, if this is the quality of what I can get from waiting 2 months between releases, I say fuck it, give them the time. I will happily, unlike Paradiso, I'm going to end this podcast with saying, this is a must buy as far as I'm concerned. And if you're going to give me quality like this, I'm going to go tell people to buy them. I'm going to go tell other fans that haven't read it, without spoiling, and recommending they listen to this hour and a half podcast where we go in detail about all the details of the comic. I will go out there and tell my fellow fandom members, this is worth your money. This is worth your time. I'm not going to do that with Paradiso. I'm not going to do that with Revival and whatever the first one was called, Bloodlines. I will do it for Declan Shalvey stuff, but this is the result of a decent artist having decent time to do a phenomenal job. So please, Marvel, if the editor ends up listening to this all the way through, please take that on board.
Yeah, and again, I think the paperback, which just came out, is really worth it. And one of the things I love about paperbacks is, like we were talking about earlier, like uh, the variant covers, and well, I guess I don't know if they have all the variants in the back here, but they at least have a cover art gallery where you can see like a lot of the covers presented in one space. So I do wish they would include every variant cover in the back of these, but I mean, I'll take it. It's still nice to see all the cover art collected together in those paperbacks.
Do you guys have anything else more specific you wanted to talk about, or are you wanting to wrap up now? I think I'm talked out of points. Okay. Greg, final thoughts?
I was not expecting this direction. First, I wasn't expecting the crossover with Avengers. Then I wasn't expecting the story to go this direction, and lastly, I wasn't expecting the quality of this to be. So I'm surprised on like 3 fronts. Way to go! I am up for seeing more of these strange what if kind of concepts, as long as, of course, it's separate to the alien side of continuity, which I would like for the comic books. But generally, very happy with the artist and colorist. Give them the time they need. Very happy with the choice of Mr. Hickman for the story and how it was written out. I would be more than happy to see them again on Alien things or in crossovers, Alien versus whoever. I wouldn't even have anything against continuing this storyline or progressing it in some way. Alien versus Avengers too. So generally, this entry has gotten a lot of good faith out of me for giving other unexpected Marvel entries and crossovers with aliens more shots. So I am pleasantly surprised. In general, I think that we're getting more and more wins from from the Marvel publishing side for both Alien and Predator. Um, not all of them are absolutely perfect or absolutely the highest score, but in general, slowly but surely, we're getting more good ones than bad ones, and I'm happy for this direction. Keep on trying new things, and I will be on board if things continue in this direction at this speed. I will be very happy for it. So, where to go?
Eric?
Final comment. I would ask that Marvel lets this exact same creating do aliens on this story.
Okay. Adam, final thoughts?
I really enjoyed this. I definitely recommend it. If you're a fan of like Marvel Comics, Avengers, especially like larger Avengers conflicts, like cosmic level threats and stuff, I think this really succeeds in that. And even like for a casual Marvel reader like me, it was highly engaging and entertaining. And the alien side of things too was really cool to see because we don't too often have that kind of planetary scale level with aliens like we had in maybe some of the earlier Dark Horse comics. So this kind of brought back that feel a little bit. Solid writing, solid characters, great artwork. There's not much to dislike here. And again, like Greg said, I would be all up for a sequel. I would be all up for them going back in time and trying to clean some stuff up and taking on David.
So yeah, I'm generally the same. I think we've pretty much established throughout this that we fucking love this run. It was fantastic. I don't want them to go too overboard with doing crossovers because I feel like we've got a lot of that at the minute. All Predator has been until Black, White, and Blood has started has been pretty much crossovers, and we've still got one final, I guess, Predator crossover at the minute, which is Kills the Universe. Issue 1's out as of the recording. Apparently, it's very good. I haven't read it yet, but apparently, it's fucking. There's been some good reactions to it, so I'm quite keen to get hold of that. Aliens wise, next up is another crossover. A surprising one again, which is Captain America, but one I'm quite curious to see how they handle given the whole Nazi occult kind of angle that they could explore with it. But I do want more talent on Alien books. So, like Eric said, let's have Hickman on Aliens and Alien and let's do something with that, please. I don't want all your strong ones to be crossovers. I want the franchise on itself to stand up, and I want decent talent on those runs, please.
Yeah, the crossovers have been among the strongest. I do feel like Alien has improved. I think Predator had solid.
Well, you haven't read Paradiso yet.
No, I just bought it as well on paperback with this one, so I'll be reading that next. But I do feel like Predator has had solid runs. The three main arcs that it's had. I'm
That got
curious
progressively better. Yeah.
I'm curious to get into Black, White, and Blood on that side of things as well. But yeah, I mean, these Marvel crossovers have been great. It does make me wonder, like, have they exceeded the number of DC crossovers we had at this point?
Oh,
I'd have to like
absolutely.
tally them
Sure.
up and compare them. But yeah, I mean, there's one crossover that I'm still waiting for more than anything else.
Can we go a
And it's
single
coming.
comic episode without you going next year? It's happening next year, boys and girls.
Next year's the year. It's got to
I
happen for real.
I support Adam. I support Adam. We should banger on that on every episode, just in case somebody from
Just in case the
Marvel or
editor is
licensing.
listening.
Yes. People
And
want that. I mean, look at this. The crossovers, we shall see. I mean, they know the numbers, but for the fans, it seems that it's liked. And if it's true that it's relatively successful, well, you know what other crossover exists? Let's try that out. So I'm on Adam's team there, cheering for that.
oh, don't get me wrong, I very much want my AvP. I've gone through 5 years of Adam saying this on every single episode.
Has it been that long since Marvel started at this point?
I think it must have
When
been.
was the first Marvel?
Oh no, it's probably
comic?
about 02, wasn't it? 22.
It was Alien first, right?
Yeah, it was Bloodlines. He's looking it up now. And on that point of if any Marvel editors are listening,
2021.
20 there you go. Eric's beat you. You're not fucking fast enough.
I was
Adam.
almost there, yeah, but yeah, that's when it started.
So if anybody's listening who knows Jonathan Hickman or has spoke to him in the past, can you please hook us up? Because I would very much love to have him on the podcast, but he has no social presence, so I don't know how to reach out to him. So if anybody listening knows, please hit me up with some contact details. I would love to have Hickman on the show. Absolutely. But I think that's it. No new comments for us to read out as of recording because we've just read them on our Alien Earth review yesterday. Never ends. I'm looking forward to tomorrow where I'm not doing something in the day. Oh no, but we have a stream at night with Trevor. So very busy times. Very busy times. I wish this was my job. But yes, thank you everybody for listening. I'm not going to go through the spiel. This has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Still collating.
And Xiggz.
assembling in the multiverse. Yeah, we got laughs. We got smiles and
Bum,
giggles
bum,
there.
bum, 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 bum.
No, you'll get demonetized, and you'll get
Oh,
me copyright strike
really?
for
Even
this.
with me just humming it? Man.
Of course, the algorithms will find it and sack me off and remove it from Spotify.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Assemble David clones. Woo!
Yes. Oh, you know what we didn't mention actually, just on that. They didn't look like Fassbender, so I assumed they couldn't get his likeness for.
Yeah,
for
they were
them.
like leaning towards that look, but
Yeah, close
yeah.
enough.
It was close
Boot-
enough, exactly.
Bootleg David. But why not?
Well, it's because it's a different variant of him, of course. So it's portrayed by a different actor in that universe.
Wear and
There
tear
we
after
go.
1,000 years. I'd give them the benefit of a doubt. It changes the plastic on the face a bit. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Until next time.